Last week, I interviewed Dr. Gregory C. Hutchings, author of the book Getting into Good Trouble at School, a guide to building an anti-racist school system. The first question I asked was, why did you write this book? Here's my interview with Dr. Greg Hutchings.
Well, for me, the biggest thing was when George Floyd was murdered, and America was kind of reckoning with kind of like our racial reckoning that was happening across America. I knew at that time that I was going to need to spend the rest of my career working to ensure that we dismantle systemic racism in education. I know education is kind of my passion, or it is my passion, not kind of, but it is my passion. And I knew that I was going to have to go broader than just superintendent, that I was really going to need to work with school systems and organizations to help them get into some really good trouble at school.
Yeah. Why did you use that title, Getting into Good Trouble, a guide to building an anti-racist school system?
Well, I think the late and great, the Honorable John Lewis, he always said the quote of good trouble and necessary trouble. And I know that my craft is education. So I'm like, hey, I want to get into some good trouble to kind of rebuild the soul of America through schools. So that's how, my co-author and I came up with the actual title of Getting into Good Trouble at School, and making this a guide to building an anti-racist school system. So I want to first give honor to the Honorable John Lewis, and who kind of started the quote or coined the quote of good trouble.
Yeah.
And I've just added the twist of at school to it.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Hutchings, what are the key factors that you try to bring out in this book? What are you trying to say?
Well, there are a number of things that we're trying to say, but the six main pillars of the book is number one, how do we ensure that you know your history, right? Because once you know your history, you're able to come up with actual solutions for the future. I mean, the history would tell you a lot about why you're in the present situation that you're currently experiencing. Number two is committing to racial equity. So not just equity, a lot of folks are using the term equity all over the country, but racial equity is where the true commitment needs to be, because when you add race to any disparity in America, it just exacerbates that disparity. Number three is making sure that we dismantle de facto segregation. And what I mean by that is we have many courses out there or structures in schools where you have to have a certain score to be in the honors program or in a master's program. Or I'm sorry, not master's, but in an honors program or an IB program. There are speculations or certain specifications that you have to meet. But how do we dismantle that? How do we ensure that everyone has access? Because what ends up happening with some of these structures is another form of segregation, which I like to refer to as de facto segregation. Number four is making sure that we are no longer having that school to prison pipeline. In many school systems, you find that, students and structures and discipline structures are set up similar to prisons. And what we're doing is we're setting young people up to go into the prison system because we're making this a norm in our schools. But how do we dismantle that and be more restorative when it comes to discipline? And then number five is about strategic thinking and strategic planning, which many schools have strategic plans, but you have to strategically think your way through those plans, and be very strategic in your thinking with how the plans come to fruition. So a focus on both strategic planning and thinking, and then finally, courageous and bold leadership, which I think is probably one of the most important components, because if you are not what I call authentic and unapologetically you, then you are not going to be able to have the courage and the boldness to dismantle systemic racism in our schools in the first place. So that is the final pillar.
Who are you writing this book for? And I got to believe there are challenges as well with getting through what you want to get through. But who are you writing the book for?
Yeah, so the book is written really for all people who are advocates, for dismantling systemic racism. That is from, educators to superintendents to board members to professors to community members to city council, to, members, as well as, federal government members as well, and also to students, right? So the goal is that we are empowering folks to truly take the initiative to begin to, one, identify some of the challenges that many of our Black and Brown students are being faced with in schools across America, and two, being bold enough to tackle those. So we want to target all people who are willing to advocate for young people and for education.
Where can we find this book, Getting into Good Trouble, and how to build an anti-racist school system?
So you can find it, on my website, which is www.revolutionary-ed.com. You can also find it at the Corwin, which is one of our publishers, and of course, you can find it on Amazon.
Mhm. I appreciate your being with us, Dr. Greg Hutchings, and tell everybody at Howard University, where you're assistant professor, tell them we said hello.
I will. Thank you
Mhm.
so much for the opportunity.
My pleasure. Good to have you on the broadcast. We've been chatting with Dr. Greg Hutchings, who's assistant professor at Howard University, former superintendent of Cleveland School, of Shaker Heights Schools, I'm sorry, and CEO of Revolutionary ED LLC. So many thanks for being on the broadcast with us.